Senator Capito.
Thank you. Acting Director Sue, I wanted to ask about two of the rules that I brought up in my opening statement. The overtime rule, I'd like to start with that. You finalized that regulation just 2 weeks ago, the new level of 59,000. And let me ask you a technical question here really quickly, because I was talking to somebody who called me about this who's going to be deeply affected. That 59,000 goes up, right, to another figure shortly. Is that correct?
So thank you very much. And actually, if I could just say one thing, Ranking Member, I know you mentioned some of the workforce investments in West Virginia. We also have a Strengthening Community Colleges grant for West Virginia University Parkersburg, which is about nursing, so it kind of connects the 2 points. So thank you for the question about overtime. Basically, what will happen is in July, there will be, using the current methodology, a bump up in the overtime to 14,888.
35 to 59, 65% increase.
The new methodology will not kick in until January 1 of next year.
And that's projected to be 75,000, is that correct?
No, that's the 58,000. 565. That's the 58,000. So this is an example of how when we get comments, we really pay attention to them. And so in several of our rules, we're giving employers some ramp up time in order to comply. So the July 1st ramp is using the current methodology, not the new methodology. It's a smaller bump. And the bump to the $58,000 based on the 35th percentile methodology is going to affect on January 1 of the fall.
So we've gotten a lot of comments for this because of, as I mentioned, threatening to reduce worker flexibility with little or no effect of what actually employees are going to take home. It threatens, we're hearing from nonprofits and colleges and universities who are concerned that they may have to raise tuition, curb flexibilities, career development opportunities. I mean, how do you justify a 65% increase in this when it was just increased, I guess, 4 years ago under the Trump administration? Is that correct?
So, Ranking Member Capito, one of the fundamental jobs of the Department of Labor is to make sure that we are protecting and looking out for the well-being of workers. Because the overtime threshold has been eroded over time, there were too many workers who basically were working over 40 hours a week and not being compensated for it. And some of this was happening through things like, giving people titles of managers or supervisors when they were actually doing basic frontline work. Our effort in raising the overtime threshold was to make sure that the overtime law in the Fair Labor Standards Act remains meaningful.
So I would have to say, did you get a lot of pushback on this when you had your comments, when you put your first rule out? You had to have for a lot of smaller businesses. I don't know how they're going to keep track of all this.
We did. So we engaged. We had several sessions. We did 27 virtual listening sessions around the country that had more than 2,000 participants in 2022. And then we conducted 9 separate listening sessions with small business stakeholders. It's important for us to engage and to listen. Then I think we received something like 33,000 comments on that rule.
Right, I would imagine.
And then we respond to those comments. And again, one of the reasons for the 2-tiered implementation was because we heard what the impact would be and wanted to make sure that especially small businesses had time to implement. The other thing I want to mention, Ranking Member, is that we also provide as much assistance as possible when implementing new rules like this. So we have charts, we have a small business compliance assistance tools, and we stand ready to assist employers that need it in your state.
Okay, so let me just make sure I get the process here because I was a little confused. It does go to the 58,000 on July 1st under the old methodology?
No.
No.
It will
stays at the same level. It doesn't do that until January 1st, correct?
It will bump up to 40. Give me 1 second. It'll bump up.
It's coming
slightly,
right behind you. It's coming.
It'll bump up slightly on July 1st using the existing methodology just applied to the current wage rates.
Okay.
It's basically a math equation.
Right, and then it goes
updated.
to the 58 in, so full compliance is not until January.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I did want to ask about the independent contractor rule, but I'll just submit that to you respond in writing. Thank you.